I wanted to let you know that I'm looking at the poll and it looks like it's a toss up on the next video, but I'm going to jump in between and do a quick video. This is because the California State Bar Association, which you may or may not be familiar with, has released their exam results. Now, a lot of people watch my channel because I focus on California bar stuff and general law stuff. Well, a lot of people have been complaining about the California Bar Association, and I wanted to give you a little bit of my feedback on this. So, first of all, if you look at the website of California Bar and you compare it with other bar associations, say the New York Bar, the Virginia Bar, immediately one thing I'm struck by is that the California Bar appears to be a quasi-government. I don't know the exact structure. I started looking at it. I don't have time to really analyze it. But California Bar might want to restructure because basically a lot of the other states have their bar associations as a non-profit organization dedicated to the same missions, mostly in a way that would not be for profit. Essentially, they still can give people salaries. They have to file 10 or is it 990s, and their structure is a little bit different, so they're not going to focus so much on the bottom line, lots of money. Now, California Bar is one of the unique states. There's only a handful of states that allow you to sit for the bar and study for it, and if you're highly intelligent and miraculously pass without going to college at all, or just studying under a lawyer and learning through practicing under a lawyer, or studying under a lawyer, just plain studying. So, why am I bringing this up? Because I noticed Washington, D.C., New York Bar, Virginia Bar, Florida Bar, let me see, is this Florida? They all have the .org at the end. Whenever you see the .org, it typically means that their organization is a charity. It's a public benefit corporation to help the public. Now, the State Bar of California holds itself out as a public benefit corporation, but it doesn't have the standing or status as a nonprofit completely because it says .gov. Now, is California government combining with professional associations? I don't know. It seems like they should be separate. You know how there's 3 legislative branches, and then you have your executive branch. I don't know what the setup is. If anybody knows, please let me know. They do have, I guess since it's a government agency, they might have to have higher standards because they have committee meeting agendas, public comments, public meeting recordings, public meetings. So they'll have private meetings and public meetings, 5-year strategy. So it sounds like that they're sort of for profit. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's still, a nonprofit can be for profit, but they take all the money and they put it back into the organization. They don't line the pockets of CEOs at the top, or they have different priorities, shall we say. So if you want to practice law in all the states of the United States, you have to first pass the bar. You can have a law degree and not practice law, but you need a license to practice law in most states. And to do so, uh, once you get into the state bar, you can get into the American Bar Association. And then if you want to practice international law, that's another story. Now, if you're a student, you can join the American Bar Association as a student. Um, but there are perks to professional memberships, and I am not, a spokesperson for this or anything like that. But I did want to get your feedback if I could, because a lot of people are complaining about this bar failing close to 70% of all the people that take it every time. And their baby bar is no better, it's actually worse. And it's basically causing people to spend and invest a lot of money in law studies, but to have to uh, really study to the point where it's almost redundant. Why is it redundant? Because there will be different areas of law that you might go into, and it has nothing to do with it. For example, let me give you an example of my dad. My dad got a master's in chemistry. He taught at some high schools, and he and my mom got married, and they wanted to have a decent income, and they needed to. My dad decided, maybe teaching wasn't for him, and he started working as a research scientist for different pharmaceutical companies, working on chemistry. And again, they wanted him to have a PhD. He started studying for a PhD in chemistry, and something happened where they had to move for a job and to New York from Chicago. And basically, what happened was he decided that they both decided as a couple that it was going to take too long to go through a PhD program. And with a young, they had a child at the time, and perhaps I was on the way. I don't know. But anyway, the long and short of it is he decided to try law school instead because it seemed like it was going to be a shorter and easier path. So while he was working as a research scientist at a pharmaceutical company, I'm not going to say the name of the company, and my mom was working teaching, he he passed his law degree. He got a Juris Doctorate at NYU. He had started out at Columbia and transferred into NYU, but that's another story. So each of the schools have different standards, and there's not always a straightforward path to passing. He took and passed the New York's bar exam, in, and he went on to get a job with a energy company. And because of his chemistry background, they wanted him to work in intellectual property law. They don't even teach it. It's not intellectual property law classes are hardly even required in these bar schools, and they're hardly touched upon in the bar exams, right? Uh, International law is another topic they hardly touch. They have these core subjects they want you to know as a lawyer, but a lot of the core subjects might be redundant. My dad personally did not like torts. He found torts confusing. He passed torts, and he didn't really give it much time. He called them ambulance chasers. But I think what was happening is he really liked criminal law, and criminal law has a lot of overlap with tort law, but the threshold is different, and the definitions can be confusing because the definition of specific intent or intent in torts is going to be different. Intentional torts are going to be different than, and then the transferred intent. So there's different nuances in the law that can get confusing. So why am I bringing all this up? I'm bringing this up because a lot of people want to look at the California bar and say, hey, California bar is not fair. It's letting people in that went to online schools, and the online schools are required to have an extra year of school, and they're also required to pass this 1L exam and the professional responsibility and some other things. And they have to go through rigorous moral character. And there have been people that have failed the moral character simply because they have too much debt. And think about that. Student loan debt is a huge problem, but you have to rack up more and more debt in order to pass their exam. So, um, I'd like you. I know you probably might not even be listening. You might go on because you wanted to hear about the economy. The economy is tied to how much you have to spend to get uh, justice or for resources. And having a good bankruptcy attorney if things are going south is a good idea. Um, Reorganization of debt, different things like that. So attorneys are very relevant in everyday life. There's this case going on right now with Johnny Depp. That's a civil case. It can courts can just bankrupt people. So, what are your thoughts? And please share with me your results or your impressions on lawyers, law, etc. You know, a lot of lawyers get a bad rap because in some states there's a shortage of lawyers and they let people in with scores of like 60%, and then the lawyer goes and practices in an area they know nothing about. There's some gaps in the practice of law. Law's very slow to change. The science doesn't catch up with the laws. There's ethical issues, bioethical issues. We've got stuff right now going on about the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade. A lot of people are coming down on either side of the fence, claiming that all life must be cherished. That would mean that they were environmentalists, they were against pollution, they were probably socialists and want to give lots of food to everybody. But no, there's this sort of disconnect and compartmentalization within the law and other areas that is reductionist. And what do I mean by reductionist? I mean they narrow in on one target area and they start saying, well, here's what you need to do. This is what's right. This is what's ethical. And it's like one size doesn't fit all. There's this situation ethics, right? Um, I'm sure you've probably heard of stories where people were stranded and starving to death, and there was no food, and people resorted to cannibalism. And there was this situation ethics going on where they were isolated. And what are they going to do to survive? I think with the Donner Party case, they were charged with, you know, it, and a lot of these questions come up in courts of law. So there's a lot of information out. Which state has the hardest bar exam? The California bar is considered the hardest one out of all the states. Now, Kim Kardashian's here. She passed the baby bar. By the way, I did want to talk about dieting. Recently, Kim Kardashian got into a Marilyn Monroe outfit. If you know anything about Marilyn Monroe, she was suffering from mental illness, and she took her own life, and she was very materialistic, and she was shallow in that she felt like she had to be appearing beautiful without any flaws to get love. And so this warped sense, and a lot of it has to do with social norms and expectations. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that too much. I'd like you to please vote again if you want. And I started to work on a economic uh, video, and I also started a baby borrow review, a first year law student's video. So I started the worksheet that I work out of, and then I went and logged in, and I saw that I didn't really get that many people uh, chiming in on what they're interested in hearing. So I'd like to kind of let it simmer or marinate and wait and get uh, some more responses before I actually create a video on the subject matter. The stock market has been really making me want to jump in and talk about the economy, the uptick in the cases of illnesses, hepatitis in children, and things like that. Makes me want to talk about the health and its impact on the economy, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I just thought it's a good idea to kind of go and review different ideas and work together, sort of brainstorm on ways to make the world a better place. And I feel like when I'm looking at the different bars, um, I'm looking at New York bar as being very diverse and reasonable on their grading, and uh, they're nonprofit. I'm looking at the Florida bar exam. I heard the Florida bar is the easiest bar to get into. Um, some people will go into the Florida bar, study Florida, and then they have what's called reciprocity in a lot of states. But California doesn't give reciprocity. You got to take their exam over. So if you get transferred from one state to another, um, you know. But the Florida bar here also has .org. So, um, you know, I'm just thinking, hey, it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.